Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. In this video, we are going to be talking about another one of my favorite story arcs. This particular story arc was one that was introduced to me by Alex the Comic Hoarder several months ago. It intrigued me. I went ahead and picked it up and was blown away by the story. Partly because it features some of my favorite characters, specifically my favorite team, the X-Men, and of course, Wolverine. The story arc that I'm talking about is Avengers versus X-Men. Great series. If you haven't had a chance to read it, I highly recommend it. This is essentially a story where the X-Men are pitted against the Avengers. And I've never really been a big Avengers fan, but I absolutely enjoyed this story. My only gripe with the story is that it doesn't make the X-Men look very good. They get bested by Captain America and some of the other Avengers. Cyclops turns out to be a psychopath. It's one of those stories where you love it, but then you also dislike it for lots of reasons. If the X-Men had come out on top, it would have been a much better story for me. But this story arc, like one of the others that I recently spoke about, is one that is written and drawn by a hodgepodge of artists and creators. And again, I'm not quite sure why it was done this way, but I'm sure that Marvel had a good reason. But there are different artists or writers like Bendis, who writes several different issues. There are artists like Romita, who jumps on and off and draws certain issues. But it's really just a hodgepodge of writers and artists that are contributing to this great story arc. And for that reason, some of the artwork and even the story itself has some ups and downs to it, depending upon who is doing the interpretation and who is doing the art and the dialogue. It is a story arc that I highly recommend because it really is a fun read. I've read Avengers versus X-Men, and I've also read the follow-up, which I think was called Consequences. But again, it's a great story arc that involves the Phoenix and the Phoenix Force, and so it's one of those ones that you kind of have to read if you're a big fan of Avengers, X-Men, or some of the cosmic entities like the Phoenix Force. So we're gonna flip through a couple of books here, and what's interesting is that when I picked this small collection up, this full run, it came with a couple of variants, and it also came with a couple of signed books. I have yet to investigate who actually did the signings, but I think 3 of them are at least signed. So this is Avengers versus X-Men 0. This one was done by Bendis and Cho, but a pretty nice cover there. This one is a classic one, face-off of the 2 teams, and this is round 1 in the series. Here is a variant featuring Captain America and Cyclops. Here is round 2, another really great cover featuring Magneto and Iron Man right there in the foreground. Wolverine versus Captain America. This is round 3, and then here is a variant of that. A really great cover. I'm not sure who did the artwork for this variant, but it declares I'm with the X-Men, and I certainly am. Here is round 4 by Hickman and Romita. Great cover there. Here's one, round 5, where the Phoenix Force is attacking Captain America. Great cover. This is the Phoenix Force, I guess, team, if you will. Round 6. Really great cover there. Look at that. Number 7. It's a pretty cool one. Here is one featuring Namor, and this one is actually signed. So I'm not sure if you guys know who may have signed that, whose signature that is, but that's one that was signed. Here's another featuring everyone's favorite wall crawler, and again another signature down there, and I think these are all the same signature. Round 10, and here is 11. I actually picked this series up for a reasonable price, and here's another that the guy happened to sign in silver ink. I wish he had signed in silver ink on many of the others, especially where he was signing in a black area. but here is round 12, the last and final part of this story arc. But again, a wonderful story arc that I'm a huge fan of. Great artwork by and large, great story by and large. And again, I think it's one that if you are an X-Men fan or Avengers fan, you definitely want to check out. I don't think that this is the first time that the Avengers and the X-Men have actually squared off. I think there was another series back in the day where the Avengers and X-Men squared off against one another. I think it was like a limited series. I have one book from that series, still haven't read it, and I've probably had it for over 10 years. Have never read the book, but I might go back and take a look at it to see the similarities and the differences between these two different series, essentially, featuring the same two teams. So again, great recommendation for you guys to check out if you haven't read it. As always, I want to thank you in advance for watching this video and also for any comments that you may leave for me. Take care. Have a good one.